Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics pre-lockout chat ahead of round 9. I'm your host, Bales, and you can find me at BAILSDT across the socials, or you might not, because I might have crawled into a hole over the weekend and might not want to do much because I traded in someone for $1.1 million and they shit on me. So that was fantastic. But yeah, we'll get stuck into all of the rest of the stuff. But joined by my co-host and fellow AFL Fantasy Fanatic, Tim Guesty, mate. How are you?
Good, Bales. Good, yeah. Look, a bit disappointed with our boy Dacos last night, but I'm sure we'll all feel better for owning him in the end. Not that I traded him in, but I've got him. Look.
Yeah, were you going to say something there?
Well, not that I've traded him. I didn't trade him in this week, but I've had him for the last, this is the third week now. So yeah, I did get that pop score for the first score, but then what is it, a 92 and 92, and it's, so yeah, look, a bit disappointing, but look, he's one of those players that I'd much prefer to have in my side than not.
Yeah, exactly. But we will recap, I guess, what happened quickly last night, and then we'll go into our captains and what we're going to be doing, because I'm sure Dacos featured for a lot of people as a VC last night, and then we'll go into what our trades are, and then we'll go into answering a heap of your questions. So if you are tuning in live just tuning in live, then make sure you get it in the live chat and comment any questions you'd like answered or players to be discussed, and we be answer those very, very shortly as well. And if you are tuning in live, make sure you smash like on the video as well. And if you are watching on the replay or anything like that, then also if you could smash a like on it, that'd be very much appreciated. It goes a long way. Just by that small little effort, helps us out a whole bunch. So if you can do that as well. And make sure you subscribe as well. We're, I think, one subscriber away from 3,800. So we're about 200 subscribers away from 4K, which is fantastic. It was like last week that we got 3,000, and you guys have obviously smashed it so far this season. We're not even at the halfway point yet. So if you can subscribe and like, that'd be absolutely fantastic. But yeah, so last night happened. And as you guys heard at the very start, I traded Nick Dacos. My thinking behind that was he was the only player that I didn't have that could hurt me from here. And I thought, well, like my bench isn't looking great, but you've got like a Bustlinger, a Carroll, a few other guys that could easily come back in next week. So I thought I'll fix the bench up next week. Hopefully a few rookies that we get a heap of rookies coming this week. Maybe a double downgrade for me next week, or maybe just do one down, one up and go get a Filippo, watch him tonight. So my thinking was get the upgrade this week, look at Filippo. But yeah, probably should have maybe gone for more of a value play. But at the end of the day, I've got Dacos now. I don't have to worry about bringing him in, and hopefully can enjoy some good scores. But knowing my luck, he'll probably average about 90 until his bye. So, but anyway, we got him in. But yeah, so he was the disappointing one. So obviously was VC'd by probably everyone that had him. I'd be shocked if many people that had him went against him. I know one person, one league that I was up against, funny enough, went against him, went Brayshaw VC. So that's a good start for my matchup there in a Hat Chat League 6, I believe it is. So shout out to Stefan that went that. Risky, but it definitely paid off there. So what did you make of Dacos last night, Guesty? Obviously, a few people are saying he looked hampered. I don't think he looked hampered too much. He was getting some work on his hip, probably copped a corky at some point, but still was sprinting around fine. He just got a pretty heavy tag from Corey Wagner.
Yeah, mate. Look, I actually didn't see the game last night. I had dinner last night, so I don't, really know what happened. I saw that Freo got off to a pretty good start. I thought they would. I actually tipped them, but that didn't quite work out. So yeah, I don't know what happened in the rest of the game, but I saw that Wagner went to Dacos early, and then did he play a bit of forward as well?
Yes, yeah. In the second quarter, for a fair bit of it, he went forward and looked pretty dangerous, and looked good and had his best quarter. I think he scored 32 points. Probably should have kicked 2 goals, if not maybe 3. And that would have been a massive difference. But it was that third quarter. He scored -1. He had 2 disposals in, and that was literally a 1-2. I remember it was towards the end of the quarter. He got a quick 1-2 handball, then a kick. And outside of that, he gave away 2 free kicks at the start of the quarter. And when your player's getting tagged, you hate that feeling of when they give away 1 free kick, let alone 2 in the space of the first 2-3 minutes of the quarter. Because instead of them being on 46 and near 50, they're on 40, and the quarter just kept going away and didn't score any points. So disappointing. And apparently had -7 taken away from him at quarter time. Apparently he was on like 21 and he went down to like 14 or something, which was disappointing. But hopefully Dacos can respond. But probably another sort of a reminder for myself and anyone that paid up for Dacos or are thinking of paying up for a Whitfield or a Merritt. It can work, but also more likely they're going to have a down score at some point. They're going to get cheaper. So I guess that value play is normally better. But still, I'm still happy I got Dacos in. But Jordan Clark was massive, 134. Luke Ryan, 122. So I wonder if we've seen maybe Freo go back to that chip game style. That'd be something to watch, but they're pretty cheap. So maybe two names to keep on the watch list. I don't know if I'm launching in them. They got a few tougher games, but they could be someone a bit cheaper you watch. Andy Brayshaw was very good last night. His marks, Tim, have been going up every week. He was getting like 1 or 2 for the first probably 4 or 5 weeks, and it's slowly gone up to 3, 4, and then he set a season high of 5 last night. So I wonder if he might be able to get a few of those. And if he can turn those handballs into kicks, we might be seeing some big scores from Andy Brayshaw. But 119, if you had him VC, I'd be taking it. A few people have said, is it 120? Am I going to take it? You just lock it in. Hard week for captains. Everyone's got probably the 67, and they're probably going into a captain. I would just lock in the 119 if you got him there. Shea Bolton, someone to keep an eye on as well, had plenty of CBAs last night as well. He was the third highest midfielder, and he is pretty cheap in the forward line. So someone to maybe watch as someone you might be able to launch into. Sarong, if you've got him, it sucks. He's putting up bad scores, but you probably just got to hold him until he's bye. And a few other scores. Ned Long was quiet, but he did go off straight after kicking a goal with a cut to the hand. So that's why his game time was a little bit lower last night. So, hopefully he can bounce back. But, that's pretty much what happened last night. We'll obviously do a bit more chat on that on Sunday, but that was just the sort of the quick recap of Thursday night footy from last night. So we'll go into our trades, Guesty. So what moves did you make this week?
Well, I'm still deciding, but I'm pretty much between 2 players for me to bring them in. Before we move on, a bit of a shout out to the housekeeper, Jaiden. He actually put the VC on Brayshaw over Dacos. So
there you go.
I think he's got his projections pretty well dialed in at the moment. Look, for me, Tom Stewart's got to go for me this week. I held him and Oliver last week. Obviously, I was able to bring Oliver back onto the field this week. But, being not named, he's just got to go for me now, which, maybe it's a blessing in disguise. I know a lot of people are kind of struggling with cash this week, trying to figure out what they're going to get to. Whereas for me, it can, Tom Stewart, I can basically down a rookie and go up from there, and I'm in the position of being able to get pretty much whoever I want. So I'm trying to decide between 2 players. One player is Zorko. He's a bit of an uber premium in the defensive line there, can obviously pop some ceiling scores, pretty underpriced at the moment. I think he's gone down about 100, was it 120, 130, $122,000 for the year. So that, that's kind of in line with trying to pick up those uber premiums that are kind of undervalued at this time of the year. I am a little bit worried about his run to come. It's not the greatest, towards his buy or even towards the end of the year. I think I'm going to go, well, this is, I think, what's made the decision for me, Bales. It's actually you. Now, not from your advice, but maybe kind of the opposite. I mean, you brought in Nick Dacos this week, even though I did have a hand in you doing that. And, he stunk it up. Who was the player you were going to bring in?
Tom Green.
Well, that's right. So I thought, if fantasy's, really trying to give you a kick in the balls right now, Tom Green's probably going to have a ceiling score. So I might as well bet on that and bring him in. Look, the other thing about GWS, they've got they have the best run between now and the end of the year for inside mids out of all the teams out there, according to DFS.
Appreciate you telling me that last night. That was fantastic.
I only figured it out today, mate. I only figured it out today. But yeah, I think that's the way I'm going to go. Not that he's dropped in price, but he hasn't moved in price. And, if it wasn't for that round 2 buy, I think a lot of us would have brought him into our starting teams.
Yeah.
I am struggling to see where the upside is. I mean, at the moment, he kind of looks like a 105 player, and I'm struggling to kind of see where the upside is. But I'm just kind of
hide. I'll just hide behind the fact he's got the round 16 bye. So not many players have got the round 16 bye.
So does Zork.
Yeah. The only thing I worry about Zorko, though, is no one's going to come in for Tom Green and ruin his role. Whereas I feel like if Kitty Coleman comes in, does that change a lot of Zorko's role? Probably not. Probably Fletcher goes back to a wing, I would say, and Kadeen Coleman goes back to that halfback, and Zorko's there. But at the end of the day, Zorko wasn't going to be playing that role until Kitty Coleman went down an opening round last year. And yes, Zorko was all Australian and obviously led his was a big part of them winning a premiership. So I think he'll stay in that role, but I wonder what it looks like with another guy like Kitty Coleman back there within the next few weeks. So yeah, I like the Tom Green play. I think that's realistically where I should have gone. But unfortunately, can't do anything about that now. But my trades though. So yeah, I went end up going Lawler down to Boxall. I'm anticipating though we're going to find out in about 20 minutes or so from the AFL late change and subs account, obviously run by our good friend Eloise and obviously one of our co-hosts Jordox and Liam helping out as well. So if you haven't followed them at AFL subs on Twitter, turn notifications on so you get the notification straight away. And you don't have to open up any app or anything. It's fantastic. If you're on the go, you can just look at your phone and you get notified who's the sub. I'm anticipating Boxall to be named the sub tonight, looking at that bench. So I think I'll be pivoting to Lewis Hayes as my in. And in that case, then I'll be able to loop Lewis Hayes with Luke Trainer and see how Lewis Hayes goes against Sydney under the roof tomorrow afternoon, which I might even go Lewis Hayes anyway, because even if Boxall does play tonight, who's to say that he's not the sub next week or drop the week after, because St Kilda are obviously floating a few names through there. And in a time when we need some guys with some good job security, I feel like maybe going Lewis Hayes could be a play. Then I went Caleb Daniel out. I've got a fair few forwards. So I had 3 mid forwards in my mid last week. I was down to 2, obviously, with Oliver back this week. But I just think that, moving Caleb Daniel on, who's just been a 70s guy with Sheasel back there. Brisbane this week, I was anticipating him dropping a sub 85-90 score and Dacos going over 100 and hopefully a big score as a VC, but that didn't work out. So, but still, I'm still fine trading him out. I've got plenty of forwards and may even look at Chad Warner or something within the next few weeks. Filippo. So I've got plenty of forwards. I don't need Caleb Daniel, and he works to get rid of with the round 12 bye. So, as I said, unfortunately with the Dacos score, but it is what it is. Moving to round 9 captains. So if you want more of an in-depth analysis of my top 10, then head over to the video yesterday. So short video every Thursday, goes for less than 20 minutes. I think this went for a tick over 20 minutes yesterday, but a little bit more to chat through because this week's captains are pretty tough. So if you want to head out to the in-depth analysis, check that video from yesterday. But my top 10, I'll go 1 through 5, and then I'll go 6 through 10. So we've got Marcus Bontempelli's number 1 against Gold Coast up at TIO Stadium. Scored 116 against Gold Coast at TIO a couple of, I believe it was 2 years ago. But he's turned up in his last 5 games against them. So really good form against Gold Coast. They're giving up points. I think TIO is not too bad. He's my favourite this week in a good matchup. I did have Nick Dacos at 2 with big scores in his last 2 against Freo, but obviously that flopped, and a lot of people have got that VC, so we're looking for someone else. So if you got Bont, I like him. Got Harry Sheasel at 3 against Brisbane down at Ninja Stadium this week. 121 against Brisbane last year, and playing that half-back role where I think he's a 115 averaging player. 134 last week. I think he'll be good, and he's a pretty safe captain option, I would imagine, in that last game. Got Max Gawn at 4. So he's had a pretty good history against Hawthorn, one of his favourite teams to score against. Hasn't been as good in his last couple against Hawthorn, and Lloyd Meek isn't as easy as what some of the rucks he's faced in the past, but I still think against Hawthorn at the G, Gawn's in really good form. I still like him as a solid captain option. Drew Jones did raise a good flag, though, with his chat with Warney, as they do every Friday. Always a good listen on the Friday afternoon. That Sam Mitchell is probably thinking, well, who's going to stop Hawthorn from winning the game? It's probably Max, so maybe they got a bit of a plan to not kick it near him. So that's my only flag with Gawn. Maybe they might kick away from him a bit more, but I still think he'll get to a pretty good score anyway. Lockie Whitfield at 5 as well against Geelong. Geelong are pretty good for defenders to score against, and Whitfield obviously the number 1 averaging player in the game at the moment, and I expect him to get to another good score as well. So like him. Then I got Dunkley at 6 against North Melbourne in the final game. Probably the safest captain option here, just with a good matchup, and I think he'll still get there. So he's probably the safest if you've got him, which I like him as an option. I had Andrew Brayshaw at 7. I just thought bounce back against Collingwood back at home. Collingwood missing a few guys, and if you've had him as VC 119, you definitely take that this week. Tom Green at number 8 against Geelong. Pretty good matchup here, and I expect Green to go pretty well. Tim Taranto at 9 against West Coast. I think he'll be pretty good, and I think he'll turn up and a pretty good captain option on the Sunday. And I've got the big X Tristan Cherry at 10, just because McInerney's not as easy, and that's why he's down the list, but Tristan Cherry still gets there. Probably if he did have Dacos, he might even be higher on your own list because he's a safer option for you. So But I'll be going Harry Sheasel captain as my number 3. So I'll be going into him on the Sunday. Guesty, what are you looking at doing with your captain? Because I assume you had the VC on Dacos as well.
That did following your lead, Mark Bale.
Sounds like you're underwater.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, got you now.
Yeah. Look, I'll be following your lead, mate. Sheasel.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I like the Sheasel pick. One of the guys I feel pretty confident in. Will put up a good score. But yeah, unfortunate with Dacos last night. But let's get stuck into all of your questions. As I said before, if you are tuning in live and would like question answered, then we'll be answering as many as we can before the end of the show. And if you put a super chat in, there will be a guaranteed answer, but you do not have to do that. Hopefully we can answer your question. And if you want any more guaranteed answers, head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. You get a team review every week, and every week there's exclusive Patreon Q&A, bonus content, heaps of good stuff in there. So if you want to head over there and become a Patreon member, then click the link in the description of the video or the podcast. Moon Boy's got the first one saying, "Glad to the live watch on last night." Yeah, so unfortunately I had to help out the family last night and didn't get home till about 8:10, which was half an hour after the game started. So it was unfortunate. But we'll be back tonight. We're doing a watch along for St Kilda and Carlton. So hopefully should be a good one there. So if anyone wants to just, if they're having a relaxed Friday night, want to listen to my voice for a little bit more and watch the game, see the scores tick over and maybe see a bit of entertainment, me get angry at players I don't have that score well or players I've got score poorly, then head over to the watch long. We'll be starting not too long after this podcast is finished. Hutchmate says, bias to Sinclair or Nick Martin, or Lindsay to Warner or Filippo. So are you going bias to one of those defenders, Tim, or are you going Lindsay to Warner or Filippo?
I think you want to wait one more week on Sinclair. So I think it's Lindsay. And look, I'm trading out Lindsay this week as well. I'm not actually sure if I mentioned who I was trading out before, but look, I'm not super convinced. I mean, obviously 33 against the Eagles wasn't a great score, but I kind of felt that he was around about an 80 player. So I do expect him to bounce back against the Hawks. They're pretty easy for wingers as well, and that's where he seems to be playing at the moment. So I do think he's going to go all right. But I think, if you can get up to Warner at the moment, I think that's a pretty solid trade.
Yep, I'll do the same. I'd go Lindsay to Chad Warner. Filippo, I'm still waiting a week. He could be the most trade-in player next week after a good score this week, but I'd rather jump on next week because we have actually seen Filippo's been a player that come back for a week or two, and then he's out the next week because of some weird thing. He's had that a little bit, unfortunately, last couple of years. So I want to see a week first. He can get a good score, name next week and playing, and then we can jump into next week against West Coast, which is a good matchup. Carlton tonight, not an easy matchup, and he may even get the red vest if he's not. I don't think he'll start in the green vest. He's named on the bench. I don't anticipate it, but obviously we'll find out shortly. I would be, looking at him as an option next week against West Coast. Lobo the Pro saying, "G'day, guys. Hey, Lobo, hope you're going well. Alex Forrester, Dacos probably going to have to pivot to Sheasel for my captain. Yes, that would be my pick unless you've got the bond. Fast Break Frenzy, can I trade out Jaiden Short? So, Guesty, what are your thoughts about trading out Jaiden Short? Is he in a similar boat to Caleb Daniel, where if you can't get a rookie up to someone you're happy with, could Jaiden Short go? Or do you think he's a bit better than like a Daniel and you'd be happy to keep him there? Because Short's got a pretty good run over the next 3 weeks. He's got West Coast, North Melbourne and Essendon and all at the G. So I think there could be some good scores.
Yeah, I'm curious to know the team, right? Because I'm just struggling to see a situation where that's the trade to make. Like I think there's bound to be rookies on field. I mean, I know that many of us are relying on maybe trainers or biases, or a Zach Reed back there, but we also know that rookies can drop a shit score at any time, right? I mean, look at Lindsay last week as a perfect example. So yeah, I wouldn't be trading him out. I'd be looking elsewhere.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think he's a whole with the better matchups coming as well. A few people are nervous about this West Coast matchup. That West Coast aren't as hard to score against away from home. It's Optus Stadium when they're at home that's where we've seen the poor scores from like a Lindsay and a Zach Reed and a lot of these outside players. When they're away, particularly MCG, like Richmond are going to have their tails up. I don't think they've been poor many weeks throughout the season. They've been in a lot of games, and obviously it's blowing out a little bit later in a few of those games. I think the West Coast game, those perfect opportunity at the G for Richmond to get another win. But West Coast will also feel like they might be able to get a win. So I think it'll actually be a high-scoring fantasy game, this one, with some of these players, because they'll have a bit more luxury having a bit more possession than what they would have against a harder opposition. So I think Jaiden Short is a guy that might be able to benefit from that. So I like him this week. John Nichols, Gorn, Shees or Cherry for C? For me, I would be going Shees ahead of those two. Are you in agreement there, Tim? Obviously, I know I've got the list there, but are you, obviously you're going Shees, but you'd go Shees out of those three as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. Bo Feeney says, went Dylan Moore last week. Do I jump off now for Rankin? What are your thoughts, Guess, if you jumped on a Dylan Moore last week? He's obviously got subbed out. Is he just a hold until he's bye and just got to hope that he turns his form ranks? He's so cheap.
I mean, that's why you brought him in, right? Because he was kind of on that cheap end, expecting things to turn around there. Look, I haven't looked at his run or anything along those lines. But once again, I mean, Bales, have you seen many teams out there with no rookies on field yet?
No. You have to have dodged every single bullet, and you would have had to jump on every player that's been really cheap at the perfect time, which I don't think there's any teams. There'd be people that have got at least an Ashcroft or a Bice, one of at least Ashcroft or Bice. Most coaches have got 3 rookies still on field. Maybe they've got 2, but maybe they've got a few more mid prices. Maybe they've got a Huswaite or a Garcia or a Sanders still on field. Whereas a lot of people have probably got 4 players that they're considered rookie or not scoring as well, I'd imagine.
And then look, you could probably even break them into 2 tiers, because you've got like a Bice and a Zach Reid. I mean, Zach Reid's technically not even a rookie, right? But a Riley Bice who's a mature ager, right? So we probably can expect them to perform a little bit better, over a medium-term projection as well. But I just think you just want to be looking at getting out those rookies, whether it's an Ashcroft. I mean, although, after popping a score last week, it looks like he's got a bit more cash, but definitely a Lindsay.
With Levi, I'm probably happy to keep him for a bit longer because he's got the round 16 bye, which is perfect. So if he's still playing and not the sub, and you've got cover for him, I'm actually pretty happy to hold him for a fair while, because he's pretty safe for a 60-plus score. He's obviously got the ability to pop 100, and in the buys, that can be quite useful if you've got him there. And he plays every buy up until the last buy. You trade him in round 16, probably to a mid, because a lot of people got him in the midfield still, or you're bringing in a Warner or a Filippo for someone and you can trade him to a mid round 16. You've essentially got your pick of every midfielder bar like a Green, Dunkley, Merritt. So
I agree. But look, there was plenty of trade scenarios this week where Luke Trainer was going to go for me. So, he would be another one that I'd be more than happy to trade, before you're trading out your Dylan Moores and your Jaiden Shorts.
Yeah, exactly. What do we got here? Casey Johns, Boxall or Hayes? So that's obviously that'll probably be decided for us in. Well, I think the game starts at 7:30 Eastern tonight, so I believe that we got 6 minutes until 7:10. So 7:40 for Eastern. So that'll be named in the next 16 minutes. So we'll find out who's the sub. But Guesty, if Boxall's not the sub, do you just go him this week because he's got the low break even, or do you jump on a Hayes who, looking at it, has probably got pretty good job security for the next 8 weeks with Ridley out? And I don't know if Ridley comes straight back in. Maybe he's got a week or 2 in the VFL. Are you jumping on Hayes if Boxall isn't sub, or what are you doing?
Here's the easy answer to your question. What did the sub score last week for St Kilda?
0.
That's right, they didn't play. So you can't take that risk, right? And look, maybe it's not going to be 0, right? But who knows? We've seen plenty of subs come on with 5 minutes to go. So
but I'm more meaning if he's not. I'm more meaning if Boxall's not the sub for those coaches that have.
Well, I'm not the sub. Oh yeah, definitely Box. Easy.
You definitely Box, even with the shaky job security moving forward.
Oh, what you're saying, that Hayes has got better job security?
I think so. Moving forward.
Okay, well, but once again, I just think with all of these, look at a Bustlinger, look at, and a Hasty. We can talk about enough rookies that, have lost their job, lost their place in the side, right? So I think you take the cash and you just cross your fingers and hope for the best.
Yeah, and that's probably where I'm thinking as well. Like, you get Boxall, even if he plays 2 games, he's going to make about 100K roughly if he goes at like a 50-55, right, with the -7 break even. So I'm probably leaning to if Boxall's not the sub, I'm going to go him because then you look at Hayes, you get him next week. But I do think looking at the St Kilda bench, so on the bench, they've got Lance Collard, Phillippo, Boxall, Hall, and O'Connell. Phillippo, I can't see him being the sub. I could see him getting the red vest. Max Hall's been playing pretty good. I don't see him getting the vest. Lance Collard's a small forward. It'd be probably a little bit silly to make him the sub. And then an O'Connell plays more of like a lockdown defender role, so he doesn't make sense for a sub. Whereas Boxall could be the perfect sub if they're looking at Phillippo subbing Boxall out, maybe. So subbing Boxall in the third, midway through the third or early in the fourth for a Phillippo makes a lot of sense. So I think Boxall will be sub, which means I think that Hayes will be the pick. But if Boxall isn't the sub, could be someone that you look to this week if you don't have him. Detonator saying go Fonte or Lewis Hayes. So Guesty, are you going for Fonte, who's 354, and looking at Hayes for a week, or are you jumping on the 230k guy?
Jumping on the 230k guy.
I think I agree. I think if Hayes wasn't named, I like Fonte, but save 124k. And we do have some guys debuting this week. Got Smiley on the horizon, Lombard on the horizon. I don't think Lombard's going to be a huge score, but still an option to bring in. So I think I'd be going for Hayes, the cheaper guy.
Look,
Jordan
it's going to be interesting over the next few weeks, Bales, right? Because obviously we've got the Pooh Day debuting this week, which, chances are those who don't bring him in this week are going to bring him in next week, right? And then, potentially a Kitty Coleman the following week. Potentially a Callum Mills the following week, or even throw a Tom Stewart in there.
Tom Stewart,
so
Dylan Moore's probably going to have a 6 in front of his name at some point, so he might be an option if you can't get up to someone.
So I think, in terms of that last week, I think having that extra cash, I'm left with 110,000 after my trades this week, and that's a big consideration for me because, I want some flexibility to make sure we're bringing in those players. But chances are we're not going to be bringing in premium players for the next, call it, 2 to 4 weeks. So it's another reason why I kind of decided not to do a pivot this week and do more of a, a genuine upgrade because, I don't know when I'm going to be bringing in a top 8, top 6. Again, I think chances are we're going to be bringing in those value options these next few weeks.
Yeah, agreed. Jordan Tran saying trade, field, and or bench. Lawler, Garcia, Lindsay.
Yeah, I know the answer to this one. You field Garcia. You trade Lawler and you bench Lindsay. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is I think, providing Garcia is not the sub, which I just don't see it happening, right? Garcia's
named on the field, so you don't typically see the guy named.
But even subbed out, right? Even subbed out. So, he learned his lesson. He played a ripper game.
Got the rising star last week.
Yeah. So, I think he's an 80. I think he's a pretty safe 80 at the moment. Lawler's topped out in cash. He's not going to be making any more cash. He's no more use to you.
You need like a 90, 95, which could happen against West Coast, but still you're banking on that to make cash, which he's gone over Lindsay, 70 once.
Yeah, like we kind of mentioned before, Lindsay potentially has more cash to make.
I still think Lindsay can pop an 80 this week, and all of a sudden he goes up 20, 30k.
I think he's an 80
got
player.
A low break.
I've done a bit of a deep dive this week on his stats because I've been looking at trading him out, and I think he's reliably an 80. I think that last week was a bit of an outlier.
Last week was his first score below 60. That wasn't either an injured game or B, a managed game. So the only other 2 scores below 60 he's had was that 12 he got injured on, and then the 49 he got first game back when he had like 60% game time, right? So he's been pretty good outside that. We saw Zach Reed score a 30, and then all of a sudden went 90 and then 74.
But so we keep talking about Zach Reed's 30, but he switched into the ruck. Like he wasn't playing his role.
No, meaning that he was on 30 at 3/4 time. He wasn't scoring well anyway. So it's just that's what I mean. More that he was having a poor game, and West Coast Optus are a bit harder for these outside players to score. So what I would do though, Jordan, if you've got a loop, if you've got a loop in the forward line or the midfield, I would loop Garcia tonight and put Lindsay on field. And if Garcia goes well, bench. If you can bench Lindsay, but if you can't, you probably back Garcia in with a better role. But yeah, if you can loop, that'd be good. I think still trading Lawler out though. He's got a fair bit of money on his head, but he's been a great pick. I've been very happy with him this year. Bailey Lolacidis says, have Jordan Clark, Ned Long, and VC on Brayshaw all downhill from here. Had Bont coming in for Daniel, but with the sweet being dropped, I've had to pivot to Marshall. Who scores more this week, Davidson or Garcia? Garcia for me.
Garcia.
Yeah, Davidson's got Gold Coast.
How
at
is that?
TIO.
Sweet being dropped, eh? I didn't see that.
Yeah,
coming.
it'll probably be that thing that Port do where he'll be out for 2 weeks and come back in. It's sort of a bit strange, but anyway, they've done that, so that's what it is. It's I think it's good for the Crows. I think Rob against Vicentine. If you've got Rob in draft, I think this could be a big score for Rob. And yeah, I'm hopeful the Crows can get the job done tomorrow night. We've got a super chat from Steve the Pirate saying, trade one of Trainer, Bice, or Reed. So where are you going here, Tim? So Trainer's got the 3 good matchups to come, but probably the guy that's obviously
Trainer,
could be more of a
Trainer
sub risk.
out.
But you go Trainer out?
That's where I got to this week after kind of looking at everything. I just feel a bit. I know Bice is probably topped out in cash, probably. Or certainly
safer floor though.
Yeah,
I know,
but I just think he's safer. Mature age, I think he's got a better role in that side. Trainer, probably got a little bit more cash to make, but I think I just feel more safer with the other 2.
Yeah. It's probably going to be an unpopular opinion, maybe because I've traded him out. I'd probably trade Reed out because he's got Sydney this week. I don't love that match. He's and again, his break even's all right. So if you're going to break even,
secure about.
I'm probably most secure on Bice. So if you train the guy, I just got a feeling that Trainer's actually going to get quite well the next couple of weeks. He's got West Coast, North Melbourne, then Essendon, all at the G. He's gone over 70 in every game, bar that sub game since round 3. So they look for him as well. So I don't know. I personally don't want to trade any of them, to be honest. If you've got 2 of them on field and 1 of them on the bench, you've probably then got like a Buslinger or a Carroll or someone to loop with Trainer and Reed. You get Reed VC. I'm probably in the boat where I wouldn't trade any. I don't know what you think. I'd probably keep all 3 for another week, and then you can upgrade to Sinclair or someone like that next week.
Yeah. Well, that's what I've got at the moment. They're on field for me. 3 defender rookies, baby. Let's go.
Yeah. So yeah, Steve, the smarter play is trading Trainer out and not listening to what I just said. But I'd personally prefer to keep all 3. And yeah, but then again, happy to trade Bice as well with the high break even. So, what do we got here? Next question from your boy Zenith. Sheasel or Dunkley for captain? I'd be going Sheasel, I think. Are you in agreement with that, or if you got Dunkley, would you go there?
Yeah, look, I think
both are good options.
Yeah, I think both. I'm not sure if this is accurate, but this is what it kind of feels like. It feels like Sheasel's ceiling is higher, but maybe his floor's slightly lower. I think kind of Dunks doesn't have that variation in his scoring. He's kind of got a higher floor, but a lower ceiling. So it feels like, Dunkley's more safe, but I just don't think you're going to lose much with Sheasel, and you've got the opportunity of popping a bigger score.
Yeah, well, both haven't gone below 90 this year, right? So both got pretty good floors this year. I just love Sheasel in this half-back role. I just think that he's dominant, and teams don't tag him really because he gets a lot of the ball. But I guess they're like, we'd rather shut down LDU in the midfield.
Brisbane, you think? They're going. Yeah, you think Brisbane aren't going to apply any pressure to him?
No, not really. Well, they've played against Dacos every time, and look what Dacos does.
No, you're right. No, you're
Brisbane,
right.
Brisbane are more a system-based team. And they're like, as a team, we'll do what we need to and beat them instead of shutting them down. Like Sheasel had 25 touches in the first half. Maybe they go, let's stop him, right? But that's only if I expect Brisbane to win this game, and I don't think they'll be shutting him down. So yeah, your boy, I like both. I've got Sheasel high, so I'd go Sheasel, but I also like Dunkley as well. So as Tim said, I don't think you can go wrong with either as your options. Your boy Zenna saying Pryor or Stone, who goes to Hayes? I'm actually Pryor here.
Really?
I think Pryor's made his cash. He's not going to make any more cash, and I still think Stone is a good, handy defender forward loop. I like him as a defender forward loop. If you don't have a huge amount of red dots, if you've got like 4, 5, 6 red dots or purple dots or whatever, trade out Stone. But I think if you've only got maybe 1 or 2 red dots, I don't mind keeping Stone just for that loop. Do you agree with that? If you've got maybe 1 red dot, you'd trade Pryor, but if you've got multiple red dots, you'd trade Stone?
Look, I think if you can see some definite value in that, in using that that kind of loop, then okay, stick with Stone. But I mean, apart from that, I think the straight bet is you get out the red dot and bring in a green dot.
Yeah. The other thing with Pryor, you get an extra 100K, 101K, and his break even's 59. He has only gone over that score 4 times this year, but a couple of them have been barely, like they've been very low 60s. So, yeah, I think, either or can go. If that 100K works for you next week, or you need a red dot, that probably makes your decision, your boy, for that one. Next question is Macca 2225 saying, people forget Zorko is a multiple BNF winner as a half forward, could end up going forward. And yeah, that's a good point. Yep. They might keep Fletcher and Kitty Con back there, and they might put Zorko forward. I think Zorko's a guy that is going to be pretty good wherever he is, but probably doesn't have that ceiling as much in that forward role. So just a watch. That's why I'm probably nervous about getting him. Lobo the Pro saying, should I go Bice to Dacos and Reed to Boxall, or go Kako to Boxall and Daniel to Dacos? So obviously the Dacos part's locked in. But yeah, Tim, should he go Bice out and getting Dacos in and then Reed to Boxall, or go Kako to Boxall and Daniel to Dacos? I probably like the second one.
Just say it again. So
they're going.
Wouldn't you prefer the rookie upgrade than a Daniel upgrade?
Meaning they're getting Dacos either way. Are you trading Zach Reed out and keeping Caleb Daniel, or are you trading Kako and keeping Caleb Daniel? So keeping Reed, sorry.
Did you say that one option is getting rid of Kako and keeping Reed? Yeah, I'd do that.
So you're getting rid of
dropped, didn't he?
No, not that Kako's playing. Just hasn't scored very well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't see any value in keeping him. I'd prefer to keep Reed for sure.
Yeah, and you get rid of Caleb Daniel instead of Zach Reed, and you keep Bice. I'm happy to do that. I traded Caleb Daniel. I pretty much did those trades, Lobo, this week, and obviously it didn't work right, but I still think Daniel round 12 buy. It gets rid of a premium off that buy and probably fixes another round. So I'm happy to do that. I think Bice can go in line with Daniel, and Reed's going to make more cash. So I'd be happy to do that one. Michael Furr, Merritt or Green VC for draft? Green for me. Merritt is probably going to get the James Jordan tag, so I'd do that. But Green does play on the Sunday, Merritt plays on the Saturday, so you probably could just go Merritt VC into Tom Green, unless you've got like a Tristan Cherry or Sheasel captain, which I'm probably assuming you do. So I'd go Green VC in that situation. Ryan says, hey, Bales and Guesty. G'day, Ryan. Davo to Dunkley and Connor Stone to Lewis Hayes, or Davo to Chad Warner and Campbell Gray to Hayes. So what are you doing there, Tim? Are you getting Dunkley in and going Stone out, or are you going Warner and getting rid of Campbell Gray, who's the 230 red dot?
I think I'd prefer Dunkley. Like, I think Warner is a great option this week. For many people strapped for cash, that could be the only top line primo they could get to. But I still worry about his volatility. I don't think. I think I heard Jeff talk about this week as well. So I'm just I'm not. I agree, but I'm not. But he's already kind of stated it. He feels that Warner's a bit more of an impact player than an accumulator. I'd much prefer to get Dunks in.
More a super coach player, I think, Chad Warner, and not a bad option still. He's a cheap guy, and he's probably going to be near the top 6 forwards. But Dunkley ran 16 by. That works really well. I like Dunkley as an in, so I would go for Dunkley there, Ryan. But again, if you've got 4 or 5 of these 230K red dots or 250K red dots, getting rid of one of them and still getting Chad Warner could be the place. That would be the only time I'd probably go for that second option, but I like the Dunkley play as well. Chris says, was that just an off game by the Pies players last night for scoring, or is Long's cash gen done? He's not going to go up a huge amount this week. His break-in's probably going to move upwards into the 60s. I still think he's a hold. I don't think he's going to drop like a really poor score. I still think he's good for their
Bales.
Their
so
system.
one of the reasons why I tipped Freo was Collingwood coming off a 5-day break, and they had 4 of their stars out.
Yeah.
So I didn't expect them to play anywhere near their best. I certainly didn't expect them to play, better than Freo. But I think that goes a long way. It's a big trip as well. They came over a day earlier, but that's it's kind of a little bit more day to settle in. But it's another day out of your life back home. I just put it down to those kind of conditions rather than something changing at Collingwood.
Yep, exactly. Just looking to see if the subs are dropped because it is 6:40 Eastern. So I'm just seeing if the subs are dropped because that'll probably help with a few people looking at downgrades. So Boxer isn't the sub. Boxer isn't the sub.
Really?
Lance Collard is the sub along with Cooper
There
Ward.
you
So
go.
a little bit surprising that Boxer isn't the sub. So yeah, I'm probably gonna go Boxall then tonight and go for Lewis Hayes next week. And if I need to do a double downgrade next week, and like Lewis Hayes goes really well, and then also, what's his name? Like if one of the other rooks goes well, I can bring Lewis Hayes and another rookie next week, fix up that bench, or at least get a few rookies in, which I did last week. So I think I'll go Boxall. Just if he goes to 60 again, he's going to go up like 60K, right? And you can, if worst case he gets dropped, you still have a guy you can make 100K off in the buys. So I'll go Boxall and I'll go Lewis Hayes.
It's raining rookies.
I don't know. There are a lot of them that could be subbed this week, but there are a few coming through, which is really nice. Ted, Closey or Marais out? Casey's asking there. I'm Closey out. Get rid of a red dot if you can still do the same trades. Marais is playing this week. You in agreement there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, brought back in, yeah.
AFL edits, get rid of Daniel or Holmes first? I'm Daniel. I'm actually looking at targeting Holmes in a couple of weeks. So he's got round 16 buy. Worst case is you trade Holmes at round 16 on his buy. I'm keeping Holmes for sure. I'm looking at bringing him in, and that should be telling you something. Like I'm not going to look to bring Caleb Daniel back in, whereas I'm looking to bring Holmes in as a non-owner of both. So yeah, I think that makes the decision. AFL edits, I'd be going Daniel out first. What's this? Weary Sid. There's a long name. Just saying Smith, Dawson, or Cherry captain. I'm Cherry against McInerney, but Dawson in the showdown's been pretty good. I just don't like. For some reason, I still don't like the showdowns as fantasy games. I just think there are a lot of low scores in those games as a tightly contested game. And Baz, it's good that Bedford's not playing. Obviously not good for Bedford, but good for us as fantasy coaches because you won't get attention probably. But Giants are still a tough matchup anyway. I'm still Cherry. Are you Cherry there as well?
Yep.
Yeah. Nicholas Starkovsky, Stone and Trainer to Warner and Hayes, or Trainer and Lawler to Green and Hayes?
You'll have to do that one again for me, mate.
So Connor Stone. So they Stone and Trainer to Warner and Hayes, or Trainer and Lawler to Green and Hayes. So you're getting. I'm probably the second.
Green. Yeah, me too. Green. I think that's I think you're getting a better primo.
Yeah, a lot of people are probably going to say the first one because you're getting rid of a red dot. And again, depending on your bench, if you've got a lot of red dots, maybe you go the first one. But I like Green as the upgrade, so I'm probably going the second one there. Next question. Tia McManus says, is there anyone of value in the back line to trade into? Not Zorko. This week. Not yet. Zorko's value a little bit. I'm still nervous. I like next week or the week after. Next 2 weeks for me, I think you got Jack Sinclair next week against West Coast, who's going to be pretty close to 9-10, 9-20. And then the week after, I think Max Holmes, he would have had the Giants and Port games out the way. He then goes to a pretty nice run, and he may even be mid-800s. So I like those couple of guys there. For Tom Stewart comes back next week and pops out 100, maybe he's an option. Kitty Coleman. I think value's coming in the back line. So that's why I'm not looking at trading my defenders like Bice and Trainer just yet, because I'm expecting those upgrades to come in the next few weeks. But Zorko probably the one if you're looking this week there. Bradley Smith, hey, Bales and Guesty, continuing the great content. Thank you. Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. Would you hold one more week on Sinclair with that high break even and target next week?
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah. I'd be holding off. Who to trade in, Dawson, Dunkley, or Tom Green? Says Stephen Neal.
I think the value play would be Tom Green this week. I mean, you're talking, what, $70,000 difference in terms of Dawson. Yeah, I think that's a play, and I also like that run. Yeah. And I like it so much, that's what I'm doing.
I think Dawson scores more for the remainder of the year, but his run for the till his buy is pretty hard. They've got what? Port this week's tough. Collingwood, who's been tough, even though Brayshaw went pretty well last night. Then they've got West Coast, which is good, but then they go. I think it's like what they got Brisbane and Hawthorn, and I think Sydney in there as well. They've got a pretty tough run up until their buy. So I'm not looking at Dawson as an in until the buy, even though I've got him in my team. Dunkley and Green, round 16 buy. Maybe you go Green for the value, but Dunkley's also pretty good as well. So I like both. I like all three, though. You can't probably go wrong with either. Who do we field, Lindsay or Trainer?
That is a tough one.
I think Trainer's got the better matchup.
Yeah.
But if, I guess he's on the bench, is there a chance he is the sub? I don't think he will be. I think McAuliffe has come in. I think he'll be the sub. But if Lindsay's not the sub, maybe the safe place to go Lindsay first if he's not the sub. I don't anticipate he will be, but I think Trainer scores more. But maybe do you go safer if one's playing first and not the sub?
Yeah,
I've got both on field this week, so I'm hoping both go well, right?
Yeah. It's interesting thought about the sub though. Like obviously Melbourne first game on the Saturday, you might be able to wait and find out. Yeah, I don't think Trainer's going to have the sub. Oh, geez, I don't know. I mean, I'd probably lean towards the West Coast matchup, and even though they've been tough for defenders, right?
Yeah, obviously a bit more at home, not as much away. I'm probably in the camp of if you get one that plays, because I'm just looking at the bench here. You've got Banks, Trainer, Sims, McIntosh, and McAuliffe. I think one of Sims or McAuliffe will be the sub. I think Trainer's had that sub rest. I think he'll be fine. But in saying that, in the off chance that he is, if Lindsay plays tomorrow and he's named on ground on the wing, so if he obviously stays that way and not the sub, I think I would just back in Lindsay on field, or if there's a way you can loop, then do that. But if not, I'd bank the guy maybe that's not the sub that plays first, just in case.
Just to prevent, I mean, you might not get them top score, but you won't get hurt.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing I'm thinking of as well. It's rookie roulette at the end of the day, right? You're probably going to bench the guy that scores more anyway. That's how I always look at it. So I just back in the safer play to begin with. Your boy Zenith says Lindsay, Hall, or Boxer at M6. I'm Lindsay out of those three.
Yeah. I mean, see if you can loop Box tonight.
If you can loop Box, that'd be great. But I know a few people don't have a red dot mid, but I'd be playing Lindsay. Like even if Boxall plays, he's probably going to play 60% game time, right? So. Or maybe that was just a sort of first game, just play lower game time and then get you through. And maybe tonight he plays more, which is the hope. But yeah, I would go for Lindsay out of those three. Rice or Ride or Bison Ground. I'm assuming that's Reed or Bison Ground, says Cheryl. I'm still backing Bison against Essendon. Good matchup. His average at Marvel's 125 his career. One game, obviously, but I'm backing in Bicey to respond.
See if you can loop.
You can't. They play the same game.
Oh, fuck. Shit. Didn't think of that.
So you're backing Bicey?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, once again, I think it's a bit like it's rookie roulette. Who freaking knows? I think they're both like, once again, I kind of did deep dive on these guys considering my trade out options this week, and I think they're both, if you look at a bit of a breakdown of their scores, I mean, they've had some outliers, but I think they're kind of 80 players.
Yeah. What do we got here? Fast break frenzy, best option out of Nasiah, Whitfield, Green and Warner. I mean, are you talking about combos, or are you talking about like Nasiah or Whitfield and Green or Warner? I guess we'll rank them, Tim. If you got to rank those, I'm probably going Nasiah, Whitfield, Green, Warner. I'm probably Green, Nasiah, Warner, Whitfield.
Green, Nasiah, Warner, Whitfield. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And obviously disrespectful to Whitfield, but he's 1.16.
But he's just expensive.
Priced at 117. You'd like, and literally all you got to do is think of what I did last night. I paid for Dacos at 111. He drops to 67. All you need, and Geelong as well. I wouldn't be shocked if like Mullen played like a defensive forward role on Whitfield this week. Like it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me if they played a Brad Close on Whitfield and whatever like that. I just think that there is a way that Whitfield can get shut down at some point. And more likely they're going to come down in price, whereas you got Warner's pretty cheap, Green's value, and Nasiah's probably fairly priced, but he's probably locked into a top 6 defender. And he's got West Coast next week, which I know it's at Optus. Players haven't scored as good, but Nasiah's going pretty well. So, but yeah, I like Green out of those guys there. Matt says, which one starts out of Cleary, Langford, or Xavier Lindsay? So Cleary up against the Bombers, Langford against Hawthorn, or Lindsay against Hawthorn?
What do you think, Bales?
Still think I'm backing in Lindsay out of the three. I know that he scored worse than Langford. Langford's been fairly safe. But I don't know. I just think Lindsay's probably got that's a good matchup for wingers. Hawthorn's not a good matchup for midfielders for Langford. And Cleary is probably the safest out of them. He's probably the safest for a 60. And if you can loop Lindsay and Cleary, if you've got a defender, if you've got a mid forward that can loop, then maybe go with that. Like Cleary, is he named on the... I don't think Cleary's going to be the sub or anything like that. Like he is named on the bench. But you've got Hamling, Sheldrick, Ben Patton, who I think are all sub over him. The safest play is probably Cleary for a 60, but I think Lindsay is my pick. Where are you going, Tim?
Yeah, Yep. No, I'd go with you, mate.
Yeah, I'm playing Lindsay on field over Clear if that says anything, and I can obviously switch that if I needed to. I'll go for a few more questions. I'll get set up for the watch song very shortly, so be a bit shorter today. Rosie or Whitfield captain? I would be going for Whitfield, I think. Rosie showdown. I know that there's been some big scores in some showdowns recently, but I still just like to steer clear of these obviously these rival games like the Crows and Port and whatever. I just don't. I think they're contested and they're not really suitable for outside players. And if Rosie's playing halfback, I'm going for Whitfield captain. AFL Fantasy says, when's Coleman returning? So I said they're going to give him a week or two extra in the VFL. He could be back as early as next week. So the hope is he comes back next week. We get a look, might bring him in a week or two. But he'll come back in within the next month, I'll say there. So that's what I would be saying. Take long 67 or field Boxall, says Sean. What are you doing there, Guesty? You taking the 67 from long or are you trying to get a little bit more from Boxall?
I had a 74 with, what was it? 60% game time?
Yeah. Depends what your risk for appetite is, I guess. If you
look at it.
Because you think Boxall's probably going to go 50 at least, and he could go more than that. So I guess, do you want to gain 13 points or do you want to lose maybe 15? Like, it's probably a bit like that. So that 67's I'd probably still lean to just taking the 67 because there is a well where Boxall just scores a 40 and gets subbed out. There's a well where he scores an 80 and plays pretty well. So it's probably a tough one. It's probably is it just a gut feel one for you, Guesties? It's because 67's right in that, probably that park of...
Yeah, look, at a lot of time you got these 50-50 decisions, right? And, we make a decision based on some little piece of information that might not really, whether it's a matchup or whether it's a role or a rumor or I think it's just really hard to give you the right answer. It depends on your risk for appetite. It probably depends on where you're sitting. Like if you're sitting up a fair way up the top, you might just take a 67 to be safe, right? Whereas if you're a fair way back, like you and I are, mate.
Maybe just take a risk here to
maybe you let it ride, yeah.
Probably
so
good call.
yeah, I don't think there's any right answers. I think you just got to make a choice and see if you can find a narrative for why you're doing it, and then lock it in and close your eyes and cross your fingers.
Yeah. And Casey John's saying Ted Closey's name. So he was the one that asked before if you go Marias or Closey out. So I'd still go Closey out, even though he's been named, because he's more than likely going to be the sub anyway. And if he's not the sub, he's going to be dropped next week. I've got a bit more faith that Marias can... He was dropped for 1 week, then brought back in. So I've still got more faith he's in there for a bit. That could have even just been a rest last week, right? We don't know. He said I omitted, but it could have just been a rest. He's come straight back in. I'm backing Marias there and trade Closey because he could be the sub more often than not, and he's probably going to be out within the next couple of weeks, I'd imagine. Liam Marks, Boxall or Lindsay to field? Bales has convinced me to get rid of Daniel over Bice. I'm fielding Lindsay out of the two. Hopefully you can loop between the two, but Lindsay's the guy that I'd feel a bit safer with. Can I loop Boxall and Lindsay with Tunstall? Let me have a look. Did Tunstall get named? No, Tunstall's in the emergencies. Tunstall's in emergencies, so obviously there's a risk that you're running that if you do like to loop. But I guess I'd rather play Lindsay anyway. And if Boxall pops an 80 or a 90, you can play Tunstall on field. And Hopefully you got a Finn O'Sullivan. Maybe you can play instead if worst case scenario. But I think that I'd loop between the two, and I'd play Lindsay anyway. I reckon we might call it there, Tim. I reckon that might be. We've got a few questions here, but I've got to get ready for this watch along. And I'm sure you got a few things too before the footy starts. So I reckon we will just wrap up there.
Yeah,
so,
I think we did pretty well with the questions today. Thanks to everyone for sending them in.
Yeah, so apologies if we didn't get to your question. But as I said before, if you'd like a guaranteed answer for your questions, then head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. Each Patreon member gets a team review each week through the Ask Me on Q service, which all Patreon members do get for free throughout the season as well. Patreon exclusive Q&As every week, more bonus content, member request stuff, like members can request content for me to make. Within reason, obviously. Yeah, it should be good fun. So if you want to do that, link is in the description of the video or the podcast. And if you are tuning in live or on the replay, or make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are near 4K. We are really, really close there, about 200 away. So if you can help us reach that goal, that's our big goal before the end of the season. So make sure you do that. So Tim, for the people that missed it before, what are your trades this week, and who are you backing in as captain after the VC from Dacos failed?
Let me have a look again. So it was... So essentially, Xavier Lindsay to Lewis Hayes via DPP, and then Tom Stewart up to Tom Green.
Yeah, and your captain?
VC was Dacos, and I'm going captain into Sheasel.
Yeah, like it. And then for me, I went, obviously, trades pretty much done last night. Lawler down to Boxall. And I'll look at Hayes this week, get him in next week, more than likely. And then I will be going, I went Caleb Daniel to Nick Dacos last night, which obviously not happy with that trade, but what can you do? Not every trade is going to work out, so I've got to try and keep telling myself. So there you go. And my captain will be on Sheasel there moving forward. So apparently reading here, so Mitch Cleary's just tweeted, some injury headaches for Collingwood out of last night's win. Nick Dacos, pec, Jamie Elliott, abdominal, and Darcy Moore, shoulder, will undergo scans. Adds to Lockie Schultz concussion. Given 9-day break, availability will be assessed next week. So I don't quite get how the Nick Dacos has got a pec injury when he was getting work on his hip, but that's absolutely fantastic that I traded in an expensive player and he might not even play next week. So, yeah, that's interesting. But we'll see what happens with that one there. So just thought
it can't have been too bad.
No, it can't have been. They got a 9-day break. He wouldn't have played out the game last night if it was too bad. So I think it's just a scan to make sure he's all good, but I think he'll be okay. But we'll find out in a week or so, within the next week anyway. So as I said, though, thanks for everyone for tuning in. Make sure you smash like and subscribe. Tim, where can the people find you?
Tim Guest AU.
And you can find me at BAILSDT and us at AFL Fantasy Fans across the socials. And as I said, if you want more answers, head over to our Patreon or head over to the watch along, which will be starting in about 20 minutes time. So head over there. I'll be answering questions for about 15, 20 minutes before the game starts. So head over there and get all your questions answered. Looking forward to seeing a few of you legends there. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Good luck this week, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. So thanks, everyone. Catch you then. See ya.